All right, today we're going to tackle something really interesting: how to breathe new life into the sermon. And to do that, we're going to look at the incredible work of a theologian named Rudolf Bohren. His ideas, well, they offer a powerful way to understand a problem a lot of us have felt but maybe couldn't quite put into words. Let's get into it. You know the feeling, right? You've sat through a sermon, it's polished, the delivery's great, maybe it's even got some emotional moments. But when it's over, you just feel empty, like something crucial was missing. If you've ever felt that, you're not alone. And that feeling points to a really deep issue in a lot of modern preaching.
There's actually a name for this. Some theologians call it the crisis of the pulpit. It's what happens when the how of the sermon, the methods, the communication tricks, becomes way more important than the what. When the technique completely overshadows the sermon's real power to bring about spiritual transformation.
And this really breaks it down for us. We're seeing this dangerous shift, right? When the focus is all on the delivery, on making it a perfect performance, the sermon can lose its spiritual heart. It becomes way more about human skill and a whole lot less about a divine encounter. The real problem is skipping the deep, quiet work that has to happen long before a single word of the sermon is ever written. So what's the fix? Well, it starts with rediscovering something people have called the lost art of meditation. And we're not just talking about quiet thinking here. This is a profound spiritual wrestling with the text that becomes the true source, the true wellspring of the sermon. I mean, this quote from Stephen Smith just nails it, doesn't it? The very first thing a preacher should do isn't to speak, but to listen, to sit with the text in silence, to wait, to let its meaning really bubble up to the surface. The speaking part, that only comes after this deep, intense listening. So how do you actually do that? Well, this slide shows us a really structured way: Lectio Divina, or divine reading. It's this ancient practice that breaks down that deep listening into 4 steps. You start with Lectio, just carefully reading. Then Meditatio, really chewing on the words. From there to Oratio, responding in prayer. And finally, Contemplatio, which is just resting in God's presence. You see, it's a process of letting the word get inside you, not just analyzing it from a distance. Okay, so how does this deep work actually become part of writing a sermon? This is where our main guy, Rudolf Bohren, comes back in with a fantastic idea. He reframes this whole process not as some heavy burden, but as a kind of joyful, creative, and even holy play. He came up with this amazing German term, Predigtspiel, which we can translate as sermon play. Now, this isn't about being silly. Think of it more like the serious internal rehearsal an actor does. It's where the preacher playfully and creatively connects this ancient text to their own life, to the world today. It's all about discovery, about seeing new connections you never saw before. And for Bohren, this was everything. This was the core belief. Even with all the struggle and the hard work it takes, the act of preparing and delivering a sermon is meant to be fundamentally a joyful thing, a joy that's born from a real, honest encounter with the text. But wait, how can this really difficult work be joyful? This is where it gets so interesting, and the German language gives us a huge clue. The German word for passionate is leidenschaftlich. But look at the root word inside it, leiden, which means to suffer. Bohren saw this as a profound paradox. True passion, the real joy in preaching, doesn't come from taking the easy way out. It actually comes out of the suffering, the struggle of wrestling with the text to find its message. And that idea leads us straight to the absolute heart of Bohren's theology. It's this brilliant concept that finally solves the old tension between God's work and our work in a sermon. He calls it a divine-human partnership. Okay, the key term here is a mouthful. Theonomous Reciprocitaet, but let's break it down. It's actually pretty simple. Theonome means God starts it, God sets the terms. He's the senior partner, for sure. But Reziprozitaet means it's reciprocal. It's a real, mutual, back-and-forth interaction. God is actually inviting the preacher into a genuine working partnership. For centuries, theology has been stuck on this question: is a great sermon an opus Dei, a work of God, a total miracle, or is it an opus humanum, a work of human beings, the result of skill and study and hard work? People felt like they had to pick a side. But for Bohren, this was just a false choice. He looked at this whole debate and basically said, you're asking the wrong question. God's work and human work aren't opposites fighting for control. They are partners, working together in one single act. So what does that partnership actually look like in practice? It means the Holy Spirit works in, with, and through the preacher's own study and effort. It means divine inspiration and human responsibility can exist at the same time. All that hard academic work, all that careful study, and all those communication techniques, they aren't the enemy of the Spirit. They become the very tools the Spirit uses to create a moment of genuine encounter.
And when you put all this together, the result is a complete reimagining of what a sermon even is. It's a total shift. It's no longer about putting on a performance, it's about facilitating an encounter. This chart really tells the whole story. If you look, technique by itself has a pretty low spiritual impact. Meditation on its own is better, but it can sometimes lack focus. But when you combine them in that divine human partnership, when you mix deep spiritual work with the very best of human skill, that's when you have the potential for a sermon that can genuinely change lives. And that right there, that's the ultimate takeaway. The goal is no longer about a flawless speech. The goal is to create the space for a real, dynamic encounter. A three-way meeting between God, the person speaking, and everyone listening, where something truly transformative can actually happen. So, I'll just leave you with this to think about. Is a sermon a finished product that just gets delivered? Or is it a living, breathing encounter that needs to be experienced? Rudolf Bohren's work makes a powerful case for the second one, and it invites all of us to hope for and expect something more from the pulpit.